Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking abstract moral philosophy and turning it into a gritty boardroom playbook for managers. Because let's face it, if you're a management student or a practicing executive, you already know leadership isn't just about staring at spreadsheets, right? It's about making those agonizing, gut-wrenching calls when there's absolutely no obvious right answer. So we're going to take the guesswork out of those impossible moments.
All right, picture this. You're a manager, and you're just days away from launching a major new household appliance. Production is humming, orders are flooding in, and your massive annual bonus, yeah, it's directly tied to this launch. But then, your engineers drop a bomb. They've just discovered a component that might overheat. Delaying the launch to fix it means 4 months of lost time, millions in scrap stock, and potentially closing down an entire site. But if you ignore it, you risk severe human injury, even if the probability is pretty low. So, what do you do?
Let's dive into this impossible situation. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the manager's ethical dilemma, move through 4 ways of seeing the problem, look at when ethical theories overlap, figure out making the integrated decision, and finally, turning analysis into action. Okay, starting right off with Section 1. The manager's ethical dilemma, a high-stakes corporate crisis.
You know, managers rarely face ethical theories neatly separated out like they are in some textbook. Nope, in the real world, you face incredibly messy situations. You've got incomplete facts, the clock is ticking loudly, and multiple responsibilities are pulling you in completely opposite directions. Take our overheating appliance, for example. Nothing here points to one inevitable answer. The evidence is totally uncertain. You've got a low probability of fire, sure, but devastating consequences if it actually happens. Delaying costs for months and costs people their jobs. Yet there's no clear legal violation stopping you from launching today. Basically, your decision depends entirely on what you count as a good reason to act.
Which brings us to Section 2, 4 ways of seeing, the lenses of decision-making. To figure out our next move, we really need to understand the normative perspectives, the lenses that dictate which facts you even notice when you step into the boardroom. Lens number 1, profit maximization. This is the logic that just asks which option produces the absolute strongest financial result for the company or its owners. Now, if you use this lens, customer safety only matters through its effect on company value. So profit maximization could logically support a cautious delay if, say, massive lawsuits would bankrupt you, or it could just as easily support a highly risky launch if the expected warranty costs turn out to be cheaper than a full recall. Through this lens, safety is literally just another financial variable. Next up, we have consequentialism. This is an impartial analysis of the overall pattern of benefits and harms across all affected groups. The absolutely crucial point here is that a consequentialist weighs a small possibility of catastrophic customer injury directly against the certain loss of hundreds of employee jobs. And here's the kicker, they do all of this without giving the company's money any special preference. A euro of lost profit doesn't magically matter more just because it belongs to your company. It's all about the net overall outcome. Our third lens is deontology. This is all about what we owe to affected people, centering heavily on moral duties, individual rights, and acceptable ways of treating human beings. From a deontological perspective, burying some hidden warning label deep in a thick manual just to protect your launch timetable? Absolutely unacceptable. Why? Because it violates the customer's fundamental right not to be exposed unknowingly to a serious risk. You simply cannot use your customers as a mere stepping stone to hit your quarterly targets. Finally, lens number 4, virtue ethics. This lens steps back and asks how a good manager and a good organization would perceive and respond to the crisis, focusing on character and practical wisdom. It asks, who are you being right now? Are you being an arrogant manager, dismissing your cautious engineers? Maybe a cowardly one, passing the buck to endless committees just to avoid the blame? Or a greedy one, chasing a big launch bonus? Ultimately, it's about who you are becoming through the decisions you make. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact tension you're going to face as a manager when these lenses inevitably clash. First up, overall welfare versus individual rights. Think of a tech manager who wants to use unconsented customer data to build a disease detection model. It could help thousands of people, right? A consequentialist might say, go for it. But a deontologist would argue, hold on, people have an absolute right to privacy that cannot be bypassed, even for a massive collective benefit. You can't just add privacy as a neat little number in your spreadsheet. Similarly, we see this huge tension between impartial benefit and special responsibility. Say you have to close a factory.
Do you count every global employee's welfare equally, like a consequentialist would? Or do you honor the special loyalty and duty you owe to the founding town's workforce, which a deontologist or virtue ethicist might fiercely argue for? And profit maximization? Well, that lens would just close whichever side is cheapest, completely ignoring both historical loyalty and total global welfare. Moving right along to Section 3, when ethical theories overlap, navigating the messy reality.
See, in real corporate practice, these theories aren't isolated rivals sitting in separate corners. They're actually highly entangled. Think about it. A consequentialist manager literally can't calculate every single outcome for every daily decision without totally paralyzing the company. So what do? They adopt strict, deontological rules, like always require an independent safety review, just to save time and prevent bias. Meanwhile, a deontologist has to look at real-world consequences to ensure their formal rule compliance isn't causing predictable real-world harm. You can't just blindly follow a procedure and wash your hands saying, well, the effects aren't my responsibility.
But you really need to remember this fantastic quote from the source material. The external similarity between the approaches should therefore not hide the internal difference. Okay, so two managers might both agree to delay our defective appliance, but their reasons matter immensely. Why? Well, if the facts suddenly change, let's say you find a way to secretly dump the dangerous product in an unregulated market with a zero legal risk, the profit logic might suddenly flip and scream, yes, launch it. But a deontological duty to respect customers absolutely still says no way. The underlying reason dictates how you act when the rules of the game change.
Let's get practical with Section 4, making the integrated decision the managerial playbook.
So how do we actually combine these theories into a defensible strategy without just, rubber stamping what we already want to do? Well, first, we have to critically examine the role of profit. Profit has three roles. It can be an objective, a constraint, or a temptation. Now, while a business absolutely must survive, meaning profit is a very valid constraint, managers often claim an ethical choice is financially impossible, when actually they just mean it threatens their personal bonus or their status. We have to separate genuine existential threats to the company from mere personal temptations. Here is your exact step-by-step process for making the call. First, run the four analyses completely separately so the financial spreadsheet doesn't just silently take over and define the whole problem. Second, identify where the theories agree and disagree. Third, and this is absolutely key, step-by-step exclude any options that cross absolute moral boundaries, no matter how profitable they might be. Finally, use practical wisdom to balance the remaining consequences. Now, this isn't going to give you a perfect mathematical formula, but it gives you a highly disciplined, completely defensible judgment.
This integrated approach is literally your primary defense against motivated reasoning. Because let's be honest, it is so incredibly easy to use ethical-sounding language to rubber stamp a highly profitable but dangerous decision. To prevent this, state your personal interests up front. Invite outside voices into the room who don't share your incentives. Assign a devil's advocate to aggressively argue against your preferred option. And always evaluate the actual real-world effects, not just your good intentions.
And that brings us to our final section, turning analysis into action, the organizational reality. Because identifying the right choice means absolutely nothing if you don't build an organization capable of acting on it. Ethical language? That's easy. Ethical action? That is incredibly hard, because it redistributes power and money. You actually have to redesign the organization for action. If product safety is a genuine duty at your company, your safety specialists must be given the formal authority to halt production without being informally crushed by commercial pressure. You have to fiercely protect whistleblowers, and you absolutely must revise your performance metrics so you aren't financially punishing managers for making the very ethical choices you told them to make. I'll leave you with this ultimate test of your corporate integrity. Look at the tough decision you're about to make and ask yourself this. If you could completely avoid all the legal, reputational, and financial penalties, would your company still consider this ethical action required? The answer to that is going to reveal whether genuine ethics is guiding your decisions or if you're just following financial calculations in disguise. Keep this playbook close the next time you face the impossible decision.